And welcome back. We're now at part 2 of this week's new comics, bitches! Itching like crazy in here. Fuck. This is gonna... Okay, so, Captain America, number 8. You'll recall that I gave a poor review of this last time around. Because we were dealing with... It felt like it was getting too bizarre, too strange, a little bit too into the 70s style of Cap and everything like that, and that was kind of turning me off. But that was before this issue. And then I realized, oh, so this is what Brubaker's doing. Basically, this is, to me, what I'm seeing in this is that he's revisiting a time when Cap was a little bit more, I hesitate to use the word fun, but things weren't quite as deadly serious. Where there are things like mad bombs, and you've got, the Serpent Society coming out, and you've got, Steve being depowered, and you've got characters like Machine Smith. I mean, that's ultimately what kind of turned me around this whole thing. Is the character of Machine Smith is so 70s. He's such a terrific 70s character. And, has been kind of well utilized and poorly utilized throughout the decades here. But it just was like, this is kind of a fun return to those days. The writing is still really sharp. Obviously, Alan Davis's art is beautiful. The whole kind of, this whole relationship between, Queen Hydra and Codename Bravo, and that this is all kind of at the behest of Baron Zemo, and there's a lot of stuff, and but a lot of this has to do with Machine Smith. So Zemo and all of these characters, all just kind of coming out of the woodwork, because it's not the Red Skull. Red Skull is he is the he's the Joker to Captain America's Batman. He is he's a truly evil character, whereas some of these other characters, like Zemo and like Machine Smith and the Serpent Society, they don't have the level of evil that they do, that the Red Skull does. And I think that's a nice departure for this comic. It's kind of been taking that so far into this whole series, and that's where I guess every once in a while it feels like there's an issue that comes in a series that I like and sometimes just flat out love, and then there'll be like a couple issues that seem off, and I'm also talking about like series like FF here, or a lot of the Hickman stuff that's out there right now, where it's like, I don't really get what the hell's going on here, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, here comes the issue. Oh, I get it now. Yeah, this makes sense now. This is what I think Brubaker's trying to do. He's trying to give this character a little bit more life. He's trying to play it a little bit, more fast and loose than what he's done previously. Because this has been a really heavy-handed comic for a long time. So with Brubaker at the helm. So right now, like I said, playing a little bit looser, playing a little bit more fun, having some fun with some, some lesser, not necessarily lesser, but some lesser villains. So 4 out of 5 for this one, easy. Again, really entertaining. It's a good wake-up call. This was another kind of disappointment for this week. That's the next one. This is Batwoman, number 6. And this isn't so much disappointing in the story sense. It's a little disorienting because it's kind of all over the place. It's telling different stories of different characters from page to page. It goes into a little bit of the past here as to how exactly, the Weeping Woman, that whole mystery got started, and what happened to the children, and who these people are that were behind this. It talks about the relationship between you know the Kate's father and Bet, and it also deals with the relationship between Kate and Maggie. It's a little bit all over the place, and then of course we have Agent Chase, the DEO, and Batwoman working together. Uh, Now this, like I said, it's a little confusing because this story does seem to be a little bit all over the place, and like I said, that gets to be disorienting. Uh, so because I don't know, who exactly they're fighting, who Batwoman is fighting at the end of this issue. I know who it is, but I don't know why. Uh, Other than these are the people responsible for what happened to Bet, and so I'm interested to find out what happens next. But what we have here, basically, the biggest loss here is that Amy Reeder, who is a very good artist, don't get me wrong, has come in to take over art duties for J.H. Williams. Um, that's not. That's kind of a mistake for this book. This is really a book that J.H. Williams should be doing month in and month out, because that's ultimately what's going to. I mean, really, what brings me back to this is his structure, is his style, is his absolutely formidable method of framing each panel in such a way. This is much more kind of square. It's much more conventional. And I read books like that one because they're a book like this because it's unusual. It's an unusual tale, and it's being brought to you in a very unusual style. And this, like I said, it's too conventional for Batwoman. However, I can overlook that because what's going on within the book itself is pretty strong. So I see this is about a 3, kind of leaning more towards 3.5 out of 5, but it's a solid 3. So it was, I guess a little bit of a disappointment overall, just because I think that J.H. Williams, he's just far too good of an artist to just be reduced to writing for right now. So so that's on that one. I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place from like publisher to publisher. I usually kind of do one first and then do the other. But here we have Kevin Smith's The BIONIC Man #6. This is a huge free-for-all issue in the case of it's a huge battle issue, and Jonathan Lau, who does the art for this, is just is tremendous. He frames everything beautifully. It's it's just a really cool, really badass fight between Hull and between Steve Austin, and we're left with it's kind of a there are some more emotional points of impact here, which is good. Because it does, it does help us to, to deal with the more emotional aspects of what Steve is going through, and ultimately the life that he has kind of left behind by going with the OSI. So I mean, just as a battle issue, this is easily a 3.5 out of 5. But with that extra ante of emotional input that is put into the issue. With people being frightened of Steve even after he saved them all, when his body parts are exposed. I mean, not his body parts, but his inner workings are exposed, like this right here. Fucking thing. I'm sorry, I'm going to be bitching about this a lot, so you might want to tune out if you're not interested in hearing some of that, a commentary every once in a while. So anyway, and then of course seeing Jamie at the end there, it's rough for him. So this is very solid 4. issue, so it's very solid. It could have used a little bit more oomph to get there, but again, this is really more Jonathan Lau's issue than it is Kevin Smith or Phil Hester. So, really good stuff. Okay, so Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, number 6. This was a really good issue, and I'm really pissed off that Jeff Lemire is going to be leaving Frankenstein sometime soon. I think by issue 10. This is, it's there are really two stories going on here. And what's going on here is it's called the Siege of Shade City. So something really, some pretty hardcore shit is going to go down on board the ant farm, which is their microscopic mobile home, and but ultimately it's about, the actual issue itself is about these creature commandos, Frank and the werewolf and Karis and the vampire, going into Vietnam, into the jungles of Vietnam, to kill a former comrade of theirs who has apparently gone insane. And this former comrade of theirs, honestly, reminds me a great deal of Dr. Manhattan. It's called Colonel Quantum. It reminds me a lot of Dr. Manhattan in the way that the power is used, disused, so on and so forth. And it's a pretty emotional story, and you think it's going to be something a lot bigger than it is from the get-go, just from the cover. This is going to be a big fight, but it's not. Actually, that's where the heart of the story is. But the other part, which is really interesting, is the humanids, which are basically, it's kind of the non-feeling, non-thinking workforce within the ant farm, are gaining sentience, and that has to do with Brother Eye, and with them, breaking down Brother Eye in one of the previous issues. Them allowing Brother Eye to infect so they could attack Brother Eye at the same time as the fight with OMAG, which was the last issue. But this was, like I said, it's a really good issue. It really defied a lot of expectations for me. It worked really well. It was a little blurry. It was it seemed a little too unfocused at some points in time. So it's a solid 4, kind of edging towards 4.5 out of 5 for Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, number 6. Yeah, that's going to be it for right now, and we'll be back with more. Okay, so sit tight.